to Jewish Women Talk About Midlife. Hi, I'm Devora Krasnianski, and I've been coaching women for a long time in all areas of life, including women in midlife. Midlife is an exciting time, but it's also confusing, and so I invite experts to join me here as we unpack this crazy and interesting time of our lives. You can join our conversations on our Facebook group, Jewish Women Talk About Midlife, and on our website, Jewish Midlife. Today, we're diving into a topic that, while not often discussed, is quite significant for those who are going through it. We're talking about divorce. Divorce can be navigated while preserving your sanity and well-being, if it's approached with intention and mindfulness. Let's make one thing clear from the outset. I'm definitely not advocating for divorce, but we have to acknowledge its reality and the challenges that it brings. So in this episode, we'll explore how to work through this complex journey while still maintaining your emotional equilibrium. I'm joined by Yocheved Levin, a seasoned hypnotherapist and mindset mentor who brings a wealth of wisdom and first-hand experience, having successfully navigated her own divorce journey. Divorce can be an emotionally charged process, often accompanied by stress, uncertainty, and a whirlwind of emotions. In this episode, Yocheved shares invaluable tips, techniques, and mindsets that can help you retain your sanity and clarity as you go through this challenging path. We'll delve into the power of self-care, emotional resilience, and effective communication, all of which are crucial tools for maintaining your well-being through the divorce process. Yocheved's insights, drawn from both her professional expertise and her personal journey, offer a roadmap for transforming what could be a tumultuous period into an opportunity for growth and renewal. Here's the episode. So, Yocheved Levin, once again, I'm so excited to talk to you because you have this way of understanding how to help people work with their anxiety, work with life situations. Last time we spoke about sleep, and now we'll be talking about going through a divorce with keeping your sanity, which is a very different topic.
Hi, Devora. Nice to meet you again. Actually, they are connected because when you're going through divorce, sleep definitely gets affected. You'll find most things are connected to sleep, but yes, you're right. It is a very different topic. And the reason why I'm here is because of my professional work, the skills and the tools that I use, and also having been through divorce myself, I can see it from both ends and I can see what helped during the process. And if I can help other people who are already in that process or after that process, help them try and think what's the right thing, just come out sane and stronger, then even if it helps one person, it's worth it. And
so I'm glad we're having this conversation. But before we even do that, just talk about what you do professionally in case someone didn't hear your episode. We'll put that in the show notes, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a hypnotherapist and mindset coach. I help people sleep better by clearing anxiety, stress, traumas, phobias. When we've been through unpleasant experiences, our subconscious mind holds on to that. And it will remember it, even if consciously we've forgotten about it. And then it could be even years later, something completely different will happen, but it will make you feel that same unpleasant emotion. That's when your subconscious kicks in and starts to tell you, hey, that is dangerous, you don't want to go there. And this is often how anxiety starts and sleep gets affected in that way, and lots of emotional issues. So I help by clearing those emotional triggers. Once the trigger is cleared, then it's no longer a threat for you. As well as doing that, that is kind of the clearing side. I also give a lot of practical skills and tools of how to handle life's challenges. Because as much as I wish everyone to have a challenge-free life, we all have our challenges. Yeah, exactly. Life does have lots of challenges. And these challenges, when we're able to grow from the challenge, can look back and say, even nobody would ever want or choose that challenge, but you'd never ever give up the learning that you gained from it. So I give practical skills of how to navigate these challenges so that when a challenge comes, instead of it knocking you down and you getting overwhelmed and you can't cope, you're actually able to ride through it and come out stronger. And what can be better than that? Because you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose the way that you respond to that which isn't in your control. And by learning these techniques, these skills, on my website, there's loads of testimonials from people who have seen the incredible difference it's made in their life. And they say things that used to bother them no longer bother them. And that is the aim. to be able to handle whatever Hashem sends our way.
Okay, so I hope that through our conversation, we'll talk about some of those skills through the lens of divorce this time. So let's just go right into the topic. Divorce. It's a big life-altering, life as you knew it is not going to be continuing, for better or for worse, or whatever the situation is. What are some of the things that people feel at the very beginning, and how can they work through that?
That's a very good question. And first and foremost, I want to put it out there that I don't think anyone can ever tell anybody to divorce or encourage divorce. This is not about helping a person make that decision. Every situation is so individual and so personal that only a person themselves can make that choice, that decision. And it's not a decision to be taken lightly at all, especially if there are children involved, because children do get affected from divorce, no matter the age. And yes, of course, they do get affected if it's an unhealthy relationship as well. It's just important to get guidance, hear what people are saying, but at the end of the day, you know your situation better than anybody else does, and only you can make that decision for you. In order to make that decision, you need to have a clear mind. Whatever you're going through, obviously, if there's divorce, you're obviously going through challenges, you're going through stress. It's not a pleasant situation. You have to do some self-care in order to have that clarity, that peace of mind, that clear head, to be able to make the right decision for you. Because I always say in every situation, now a lot of the tips that I'll be giving are not just related to divorce, but obviously we're focusing on in this situation. There are things for any situation, any challenge that comes up in your life. Trust your gut feeling. Your gut feeling is so powerful, and it's always telling you what is right for you. But in order to know what your gut feeling is telling you, your mind has to be clear. Self-meditation, go for a walk, do anything that just helps you to feel good. For some people, it could be exercising, could be swimming, could be reading, listening to music, even just taking yourself to a quiet room, giving yourself, say, even 10 minutes to just close your eyes and just take yourself to a nice imaginary place. I know we spoke last time about going to the beach or something like that. And just imagine yourself in that place, and any thoughts that come, just imagine them just floating away like clouds in the sky, just drifting, floating. Give yourself that time to just clear your mind. When you have a question that you want to ask yourself, once you've cleared it, ask yourself that question, and your subconscious mind will come up with the answer. It might not be straight away, but just trust yourself that the answer will come to you. So during bringing it back to divorce, when you're going through divorce, there's a lot of stress going on. It's so important to take time every day, even if it's 5 minutes a day, just to clear your mind, to ground yourself again so that you can handle what is going on in your life.
So I know that some people, when they're stressed, they go to their phone or something to distract them, but you're saying like the opposite. You go get your alone time, but alone without the other distractions, so that you could actually calm down and get to yourself, not to someone else's ideas, whatever you're reading on your phone.
100%. Yeah, because stress is an actual chemical in our body, and the more it builds up, if we have too much of it, it's harmful for us. And if we're just like turning to our phone and distracting, or you're talking to a friend, sometimes talking can help you. It can help offload. So it's so important to have ways that you're actually releasing those stress chemicals from your body. Otherwise, it's just going to build up, and eventually it just gets too much to handle.
So yeah, there's the exercise which can sometimes help release that cortisol and like let the stress leave, or some of it at least. But the aim is to really release as much of the cortisol and get in tune with yourself. So distracting ourselves is not it. So if you're walking with headphones and listen to a podcast, it releases some of the cortisol, but it doesn't do the clearing the mind.
So it depends, because walking is already exercise is good for you. It releases endorphins. And the podcast, it all depends what you're listening to. So if you're going to listen to something that is actually going to motivate and encourage you, then that is a good thing as well. So that's totally good to do that. Obviously, every person is different. Some people I think if people feel that they always need distractions, they need to question that. Why they're always needing a distraction, then there's so much more going on. They need to learn to be comfortable with themselves. But that's a whole nother topic. Because when you're comfortable with yourself, then you're okay to just be in the moment. And that's an incredible place to get to be able to strive to get to that.
Right. So we talked about getting to yourself, tuning into yourself, however you do that, through exercise or meditation or going to a quiet place or whatever. And the answers come from within. But I'm curious about, what does it feel like when your gut is telling you? Like, what does it feel like in the body? What does it feel like? How do you know that your gut is talking now?
That's a very good question, that. That's a very good point, because when you have that gut feeling and it's something that is not pleasant, then yeah, it's a tricky one. You've just got to go through it. I'd say take it one moment at a time. You know, when you look at the whole picture, if you're looking at a mountain and you want to climb it, you're looking at the top and it's like, how on earth am I going to get to the top? It's going to make it difficult to get there. So yes, see the end goal, look at the top of the mountain, but then bring it down to just above your level. Look at just that first step. So see the bigger picture, you know what you need to do, and then start breaking it down into all the practical things of what needs to be done at which stage. So there's going to be lots of things to navigate. If you have children, there's the children. And I say, always put your children first. Never drag children or use them as bait against each other, because number one, it damages the children. I see from clients that I've worked with who their parents have been divorced and what it did to them. The biggest favor you can do for your child is to do it amicably, so that you're causing the least damage for them. Make it as smooth as possible. So number one is children. Then obviously you've got the finances to sort out. So break it down into step by step, and then just take one thing at a time. Because if you're looking at it all in one go, it's much too big to handle. One thing at a time. And a lot of it is also your self-talk, what you're telling yourself, positive affirmations, because it is a challenging situation. It's a tough and it's a major thing to go through. The way to help yourself get through it is through the affirmations, what you tell yourself. If you're going to tell yourself that this is crazy, it's so hard, it's so difficult, how am I going to get through it? It's going to make it harder. Whereas when you acknowledge that, yes, this is a massive change, it's a life-changing decision, it's going to affect you, it's going to affect your children, it's going to affect lots of people, your friends, your family, everybody who in your circle is going to be affected by it. So acknowledge that, and then guide yourself into a positive state. Like, what would you tell a friend in that situation? Most times when it comes to friends, we're encouraging, we're motivating, and when it comes to ourselves, we're very harsh and critical on ourselves. So instead of being harsh and critical, be compassionate with yourself. So acknowledge that, yes, this is massive, major changes, however it is for you personally. And then what can you tell yourself that will help you to get through it just moment by moment?
So step by step, or two steps. Sometimes you have to do things simultaneously, so two steps, but not the enormity of it.
That's right. And what you're telling yourself in the process is very, very important. Keep it positive. In every situation, there's always a positive. I know in divorce, you can say, well, what's the positive about divorce? What I mean by positive, if you cannot think of something positive, then at least something motivating and encouraging. And the more we trust on Hashem, the more the Siyata Dishmaya that I myself saw was just incredible and unbelievable. And people often tell me I have a direct line with Hashem, and I say, we all have it. We just have to use it. And the more you use it, the more he guides you. And often the guidance is through that gut feeling. That is one of the ways that we get his guidance on what to do. But so many times when it's going tough, literally just speak to Hashem, tell him, Hashem, let's say it's beyond me, it's so much for me, it's stressful, whatever it is, please help me, get me out of this situation. There were times, like I've seen it even personally, that there were times when through the process, I wouldn't even want to get out of bed. And just then, somebody phoned me to see how I was, or I'd get a message or something like that. And this is what I mean by Hashem's messages. Some people can just think, oh, it's just coincidence, but it's not. It's Hashem telling you, I am there. I know it's tough now, but I'm going to get you through this. And the more you rely on him, the more he helps you.
For some people in their divorces can be amicable, and some people, the people they're working with, just won't allow it to be amicable as much as they try to be. Sometimes there's a reason for that divorce, and sometimes it's a difficult person. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's other reasons. I'm not going to go into reasons. So when you're going into a meeting or going into a conversation with the difficult person, do you have any tips of what you can do for that? Like just to get yourself grounded?
Yes, yes. Like you say, get yourself grounded. So always prepare yourself before a meeting. What I mean is preparing yourself mentally. And again, it comes down to the same thing. It's always acknowledging and then guiding yourself into something encouraging, motivating. Because a lot of times our expectations are sometimes our own worst enemy. And when we have high expectations or unrealistic expectations, it can bring so much disappointment and a lot of negative feelings. So before you're going to a meeting, prepare yourself mentally. I'm not talking about the practical side. That I'm not here to tell you the practical, that each person has to do what they need to do. But when I say mentally, so acknowledge the person that you're going to deal with already, right? And tell yourself beforehand, I can do this, right? I'm going to stay calm. If you tell yourself beforehand, I'll just stay calm, and visualize a couple of scenarios and imagine yourself already how you're going to respond in that situation. When you do this, your mind knows no difference between imagination and reality. So when you imagine something, in your mind, it's as though you've done it. Now, we all know the first time to do something is much harder. Once you've done something once, it becomes easier. So once you imagine already responding, let's say acting in that meeting, calm and collected and grounded, then when it actually comes to the meeting, it's so much easier to do it.
Say that again. So even if you're just your first time is an imagination and not even a real, it helps.
That's right.
It gets over that first time hurdle.
Yes.
So if you imagine it twice, you get over the first time hurdle twice, and you're better at that.
The more you imagine it, the more real it becomes. Because you're training your subconscious mind to respond in a certain way. And the more you practice it, the more you imagine it, the easier it becomes. You know by yourself, if you do something 3-4 times, it's already much easier than the second time you've done it. So yes, visualize yourself doing it every day. The more you imagine yourself, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes in reality. Focus on the state that you want to be in, not the state that you're in. So focus on being calm. For example, in a meeting, obviously there's things that are going to come up that are going to take you by surprise. First thing is to press your pause button, take a deep breath in, and just tell yourself, calm, relax, calm, relax. Give yourself that even if it's a 3-second pause, do this 2-3 times. Just take a deep breath in, give yourself that moment before you respond. What this does is it's actually calming down your emotional side, because when your emotional side is highly triggered, logic goes out the window, as we all know. If somebody's having a panic attack and you try and reason with them, they can't hear it because the emotional side is so high. So by regulating our breathing, calming it down, we're actually calming down the emotions. Once the emotional side is neutralized, we can work with the logic at the same time. Now, when you're in a situation and it's highly emotional, highly charged, and you're going to respond from an emotional perspective, which is not going to be the best thing for you. So you want to calm it down and be able to use the logic. It's basically like taking a step back. And the easiest way to do that is through regulating your breathing and telling yourself, just calm, relax, I can do this.
So going back to your expectations, if you expect that it's going to be confrontational, and you're going to walk in, I imagine, differently than if you have the expectation that it's maybe difficult, not confrontational. I even see the difference in those two words. It's going to be difficult, but I can do it, versus it's going to be confrontational and I have to show him.
Exactly. And there's a difference. It's a good point that you mentioned, because there's a difference between being aware and knowing the person that you're dealing with, and expectations. So if you know that person is confrontational, when you're saying, I expect it to be confrontational, you're kind of predicting already how it's going to be. Whereas if you're aware that, yes, this person can be like this and this and this, then you're preparing yourself to deal with it. So there is a slight difference in that.
I think that even paying attention to those nuances in the words that we're using as we're thinking about it, and bringing it down to something that's more realistic, or more real than expecting it to be confrontational, which it may be based on your past experiences. It really might be, but just reframing it to, it will be difficult and I can overcome this. It's going to be difficult and I will remain calm. I will use my breathing. I think it's very different than it's going to be confrontational and it's going to be awful.
Yeah, 100%. Because one way is you're predicting it, and if you predict it, very often it will happen. The other way is, you're aware of it, but you're guiding yourself into how to handle the situation in the best way possible.
And then when the situation was a difficult meeting with whoever it was, whether it was the lawyers or the Rav or whatever, and it was difficult. So then what are some tools to kind of bring you back down from the difficult?
Then what we discussed in the beginning, you need to have some self-care. You need to have some, whether it's go out with a friend, music, exercise, meditation, you've got to have something there for yourself to de-stress, because otherwise, like we said in the beginning, the stress just builds up and builds up and builds up. So after a meeting, and in advance already, let's say that you're going to have a meeting, try to give yourself a little bit of time, even if you've got half an hour, an hour, rather than straight away rushing back into your routine and your schedule, so that you've got that time to just de-stress and get yourself into a better state again, because it is highly charged emotionally and there'll be a lot of stress there. And if you're just rushing into carrying on the rest of your day with that stress, it's not releasing from your body, and that's not going to do you any good. So give yourself that time. You know about it in advance. Put aside half an hour, an hour after that meeting, so that you've got just time for yourself. This kind of rebalances you so that you can carry on moving forward. Otherwise, it just becomes overwhelming and just way too much to handle.
I'm also I'm wondering actually, if knowing that at the end of this, you will have coffee with your friend or you will go to the beach, just knowing I have to get through this meeting and then I will have the beach, or then I will have my coffee, or then I'll have my friend or whatever. I could imagine that it could be helpful just knowing that you have the self-care on the other side.
Definitely, exactly. It makes it more manageable, and that you can do this. And this is all part of helping yourself to just one thing at a time. You can do this, you can get through it. But at the same time, it's not just leaving it to, Hashem to sort out for you. You do have to be realistic, and you've got to have these self-care strategies in place and do it for yourself.
I'm also imagining that it'd be valuable to reach out to people, not expect people to come to you. This is not the time of your life that you'll be a major giver, perhaps. Maybe you'll have to be a receiver and maybe even an asker. But there will be a time that you'll be able to be a receiver or to be a giver again.
Yeah, 100%. Such a valuable point that you mentioned, because, and this is also part of self-care, knowing yourself, knowing that, yes, right now is a challenging time. If you feel that you can't give, then don't. Do what you feel you can do, because it is a very challenging time for you. And right now, like you say, you have to be on the receiving end, so that's okay. And reach out to other people. Sometimes it's helpful to have people who are going through it. Sometimes it's not helpful, because people can compare notes, and that isn't a healthy thing to do. It's okay if you're just doing it just to offload, but never compare your situation with someone else's, because it's never going to be exactly the same. And what works for one isn't necessarily the best for someone else. But I'd say more important than somebody in the same situation is just having people who understand you. And that doesn't matter whether they've been through that or not. Everybody's been through challenges in life. So even they've had their own challenges, but as long as they're understanding and they can just be a support for you, that is so important, to have your network, whether it's family or friends, whoever it is. And like you say, reach out. Don't make yourself a victim.
There's the reaching out, but what I have found as we're trying to help people is they don't want the help. They have their dignity and they have their guard up that they don't want the help. And then that kind of unravels the relationship that we had, the friendship that we had before. And it's hard to be watching somebody going through something on their own and not accepting the help. Now, maybe the help I was offering was wrong. It was the wrong thing, and I can totally take responsibility for that. But on the other hand, it did feel like she put her wall up because she wanted to keep her dignity and not feel like she was needing to be receiving. And I think that in the world, in order for us to be givers, there has to be a receiver on the other side. So sometimes we have to be the receiver, and sometimes we can be the giver, so that there's giving and receiving all around.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, it's all about what each person is going to need or want something different. So I think what would be very valuable for somebody going through it, let's say if you have a friend or family member that's going through it, is being there for when they need to, for when they want to reach out, and maybe just like, what can I do to help you? So you're just leaving it for them and knowing that, letting them know that you are there for them should they need anything. Because a lot of times people going through divorce, I mean, there's so many emotions going through, and there's going to be different emotions at different times, and you might feel one emotion at one time and then you think you're over it and suddenly it will come again. We are in the frum world, the Jewish world, it's a very close-knit, family-orientated lifestyle. So it comes, Shabbos Yom Tov, for single people, it's very, very hard. And people don't always want to have to go to other people. Sometimes they feel like they're just that, they're either being invited just because they're on their own. And this is, I hear from people, what they've told me from their experiences, that a lot of times they just feel that they're only being invited because they're on their own, which, and again, it's, it's all about perception. So, I say to them, but what would you do if it was somebody else? Would you just invite them because they're on their own, or you invite them because you're enjoying their company? So it depends how you look at it. If you're going to look at it as you're this poor, sad, or chesed case, or, this victim, then you're going to feel that way. Whereas if you look at that other person is reaching out because they genuinely care about you, and if it was the other way around, you would be going there and helping them. So look at your perception and change your perception to help yourself. And I always say, from every situation, we can either become bitter or we can become better. Don't become bitter. It's so much better to become better. Use your experience to grow from it. Look at from every experience, you learn how not to be or how to be. You look at people, and if you see somebody behaving not nicely, people so often focus so much on how that was so wrong, that was terrible. And I just say, well, you've learned how not to be. And that is a valuable lesson. So learn from people. You either learn how not to be or how to be.
Right.
Stick with the people who you learn how to be. But when you come across somebody how not to be, just take it as a lesson. I know now not to do that. So it's about your perception. Stop telling yourself things that will make you feel like a victim. You're not a victim unless you want to be. And being a victim isn't going to help anybody.
And being a receiver is not a victim. It's two
Not at all. Not at all. When you're receiving, sometimes you receive just because you want to make the other person happy. When you're receiving, you're actually allowing that other person to feel good. So you're giving to them. So it goes round in circles. And know that, like you said,
I guess on the flip of it, if you really don't want to be their guest, then you could still say no.
Exactly. But remember, whatever choice you make is your choice. So don't moan about it afterwards. You can choose to either, take the invite, take the help that's being offered, or do it by yourself. But accept the choice that you're making and know that it's your decision, it's your choice. I think a lot of times, and I see this with clients a lot, like when people get to accept their situation, it makes life so much easier. A lot of times people are just so bent and focused on what they want rather than realizing, you know what, hey, your life isn't going that way. So work with what Hashem is giving you. This is how your life is. Accept reality. When you accept reality, accepting reality doesn't mean that it's nice and it's wonderful. It means this is the path that you are on. This is the path Hashem brought you on, whether you like it or not. You can either fight it and make life harder for you, or you can work with it and make it as easy as you can. And what you tell yourself in these moments makes a massive difference.
So a lot is mindset. I hear that the mindset coach of you coming out of
massive, yes.
And I think it's a lot of it's the words we use to describe ourselves, to describe our situation, or to describe the other people.
Yeah, definitely. And people, Yeah, people don't realize how often negative they are. I'm not saying everybody, but obviously the people that come to me are coming to me for help. So I get to see the ones who are talking to themselves very negatively. And I think we all do that until we make ourselves aware of it. And once we're aware of it and we start to change that and speak in a positive way, it is life-changing. It really makes a massive difference.
So if someone comes in scared, fear, insecure about the future, what kind of mindsets can they work with?
So number one is acknowledging it. Acknowledge, because if you try and push away the emotion, it keeps coming stronger. For sure, it's so normal to feel scared. There's so much uncertainty. It's a whole new, like your life is changing completely, and you don't know what's going to be. We never know what's going to be, but here you're faced in a situation where kind of you had your security, even if it was insecure and unstable, it still was familiar for you. And now you suddenly your whole life is changing. So acknowledge that yes, it is going to be scary for you. Like once you acknowledge your emotions, it gives it permission to go. So, and again, it's back to that same principle, acknowledge it and then guide yourself. What would you tell somebody else in that situation? This is what I mean by you would bring in the encouragement, the motivation. So you can tell yourself, well, yes, it's scary. Like, I'll take it one day at a time. Hashem is going to help me. Think which people have you got in your life that you can, as you say, reach out to help for. Look at the things that you can do to help yourself.
So again, we're of course it's acknowledging that the situation is uncertain just by the virtue of going through it, but being in the process, being in the messy middle, as we call it. So it's just a messy middle, and that's going to be uncertain because it's not resolved yet. And not knowing where you're going to, how it's going, the outcome can be very stress-inducing. But I think also for some people, it's knowing that partly of what I'm going to say or what I'm going to decide is going to make the impact for the future, and that can feel overwhelming.
Yes, and that comes back to the mountain. You know, if you're looking at the top of it, it's going to be overwhelming. If that thought comes, bring yourself back to the present moment. Stop living in the future. If you live in the future, there's anxiety there. You live in the past, can get depressed. Live in the present moment. In the present moment, there's no anxiety. Right now, right here in this moment, you're managing it, you're handling it. So bring yourself back to the present moment. If you're getting overwhelmed, you're starting to worry, then know that you're thinking ahead. So stop. Just bring yourself back to the present moment. And again, what are you doing in the present moment? What do you need to do right now? Focus on that.
So yes, I hear that. But at the same time, if you have to make a decision that will impact the future, so in the present moment, I have to make a decision. Like if I give in, which is again one of those mindset words, if I give in and I accept a lesser alimony or accept a lesser child support, then that will impact me in the future. So I'm not going to give in. Or how long should I fight for that? So there is that certain element of what I do now will impact the future, and that can be very stress-inducing or feel very overwhelming. So how can we bring that down to something that's manageable and not end up fighting for 10 years?
Definitely. So it's about when you need to make a decision, remember what I said about the emotions and the logic. You want to be in that balanced state of mind, in that calm state of mind, so that you're making the right decision. If you're going to, like, if in that moment you're feeling overwhelmed, you first have to clear that feeling. Because if you're making a decision in those strong feelings, it's going to be the wrong decision for you. So you first have to release those feelings, which, like I said, the way to release it is first by acknowledging it and then telling yourself, reassure yourself. Once you're feeling more in the present moment, then you will have the clarity to be able to make the right decision. And that right decision, know that you're not going to make it in a split second. You're going to look through everything. Sometimes you'll need professional guidance. But as long as you have that calm state of mind, you can make the decisions that are right for you. So remember, never panic. If panic comes in, you've got to clear that first. Because if you're making decisions out of emotions or panic states, it's going to be the wrong decision for you. So it's about calming yourself down so that you can make those decisions.
And then
you can make a decision.
Then there are some people who want to make the absolute best decision. And they make themselves crazy to make sure that they get the absolute best decision instead of something that works really well as opposed to best. And
yeah. Again, it boils down to balance and not either extreme, because obviously there's two sides to a divorce, right? So you can only do the best for your side, but you have to look at, what do you want out of this? What is your end goal? Your end goal is you want to be able to move forward. Why would you want to have years and years of battle and struggle, what, to get a little bit more? Yes, it has to be fair, but at the end of the day, be sensible, be realistic. Look at what you want out of it. You want to be able to come out of it as a wholesome person, a person who is able to move on to the next chapter of your life in the best way possible. So you have to pick your battles and know what is worth pushing for and what isn't. And again, doing it in the best way, the nicest way possible. Because sometimes you hear of cases that people they fight for years and years and years and years, and afterwards, whatever they fought for has all gone on legal fees anyway. So they've lost it anyway.
Right.
Was it worth it? I wonder how many people would say that was actually worth it. But I think it's also a personality. Some people are just, I'm going to go, I'm going to get them payback. But if you're coming in with that attitude, you're only going to hurt yourself. It's that combination and that balance of, yes, you've got to do ishtadlus to make sure that you're getting what is fair or what is right. I'm not saying it's always going to be fair, but sometimes you'll give in, because even if it's not fair, just because you want your own peace of mind. And at the end of the day, Hashem will help you. Yes, of course, you have to do your bit, your ishtadlus, but focus on the end result and what it is that you want. And that should be to be able to move forward, not to stay stuck and into this fighting mentality, because that people can get very caught up in that, and that does not help anybody, and the children will get affected.
So, well, not from a divorce example, but the idea of how much is your peace of mind worth as far as money. I just have my own life. Like, how much is it worth to fight for the last $3,000 that somebody owes you? It's like, how long, how much energy?
Exactly.
Yes, they win technically, or they took our money, but my sanity is worth more than $3,000. Now, I'm not talking divorce is $3,000, but the idea of what's my sanity worth? What's my kids' sanity worth?
Yeah.
And how much is the lawyers going to be getting out of this?
Exactly. And what people don't realize is, let's say, like you're saying, they're fighting for 3,000, but in legal fields, they're going to be paying 10,000 for that. So do the maths as well.
Right. Well, initially, you don't think that's going to cost tens of thousands to get that last little bit. It's like they have to put that into the account, the aggravation and the legal fees, and what are you going to do for that?
Yeah. And the best way to do that, the more grounded you are, the easier it is to make these decisions.
You said your mind is clearer to make logical decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that mindset of I'm out to get him is not helpful.
No. Doesn't help anybody, not even yourself. Not you yourself, but oneself. I think that is first and foremost mindset to change. Divorce is not about being out there to get the other person. Divorce is, you realize the marriage is ended, there's no future, it's the best for all of you, or for some of you, and this is the way forward. It's a process you have to go through in order to help yourselves both move on and start a new life.
I just want to talk to one other part about when people are concerned about what other people are going to be saying about them.
Then you need to build on your confidence and self-esteem. When you are confident, if you're doing the right thing, you never have to worry about what other people are doing. I always say, if something is right in the eyes of Hashem, then it's go and do it. If you're worried about what other people are saying, then there's an insecurity inside you. And then you have to work on that. Build your own confidence, your own self-esteem, which anyway you need to, especially if you're going through divorce, because divorce is there to try and knock that out of you. The way to do that is on a daily basis. Speak to yourself positively. Look at the things that you do well. Look at things that you are good at, and make a mental note of kind of praising yourself, acknowledging it for yourself, so that this boosts your own self-esteem, your confidence. If you're doing, and obviously it depends on the situation, it depends what it is, what will other people say about me. But like I say, if you're doing the right thing, there's nothing to worry about what other people are saying about you.
Right. And you're going to always need that confidence, especially afterwards when you're living on your own and raising your family as on your own, or whatever it is. So it's time to build that confidence and not let stupid people say stupid things bothering you.
Exactly.
Because there will be people who say stupid things.
For sure. And again, this is where your choice comes in. When somebody says something which is either hurtful or silly or unnecessary, then you can just chuck it out. Imagine like a bottle of bubbles and you're just blowing the bubbles away. Blow away that thought, whatever it is that they said, that emotion, whatever it is, chuck it out. You have a choice. You don't have to take in and absorb everything that people tell you. This is where your choice lies in. You can't choose what people say or do, but you can choose how you respond and to choose whether to keep that or to chuck it. And people say things, you're not here to change them, you're here to change yourself.
Like not even respond, or respond, and how is that important to you?
Yeah, but the best way in that situation is first to take a deep breath in and slowly breathe out, because this releases that emotion and it takes away that instinct, that response, so that you can calm yourself down. And then, like you say, depending on the situation, either just say, I don't want to talk about it, or that comment isn't necessary, anything. Obviously, it depends on the situation. You can respond or not respond, but chuck it out.
Right. Because and just, I think what we said in the beginning, just knowing that people will say things that are unnecessary or hurtful or stupid, just knowing that they will come. And okay, so here's one. And that's just, it's hard to hear it as they say it, but just knowing that it will come, I think makes it easier, that there's no way that you're going to, I can't imagine that anyone can get through something difficult without someone saying the wrong thing. Whatever the difficult thing is. Because first of all, they don't know what the wrong thing to you is. But sometimes people just are missing some social cues and just say the wrong thing altogether. So I think to me, we're going through whatever I was going through at my time. It's not divorce related, but nonetheless, just knowing that people are going to say things that are not going to land well on me, just knowing that made it easier when those things came.
Definitely. This goes back to what we said about preparing yourself mentally. Because when you're mentally prepared for something, it makes it so much easier to actually handle it.
So what else can someone mentally prepare for besides that people are going to say things that that people are going to try to save that marriage? Because I think that always people think that for whatever reason, people think that people are happier when they're married, which I don't know where that came from. Like, or that Jewish families should be intact, whatever that means. So they just don't, so they try to save the marriage at first. When they don't realize that someone probably thought about that before.
I'm sure most people who are going through divorce have tried that already. So yeah, I think the most important thing is to know that, yes, you will be surprised. There are going to be surprises along the way, because I think it's impossible to go through a divorce and not be surprised, because everyone's situation is different. But just knowing that there's going to be things that will surprise you, and telling yourself what you're going to do in that situation, you're going to give yourself a moment. You're not going to respond straight away. You're just going to give yourself that time to calm down, to think about it, and then respond. You never have to respond straight away. I think we also think that we always have to respond straight away. We don't have to. Wait.
And what if you get advice from somebody, or you get, like, whether it's a friend or a professional or a Rav or whatever, and it doesn't resonate right, it doesn't feel right. So what are the first response, and then what to do after that?
Yeah, this is so apt for it, because not everything that you hear, doesn't matter who you hear it from, is going to be either relevant for you or the right thing for you. So just hear it. People are free to say what they want. You can hear it. Check it out. You don't have to respond straight away. Check it out with somebody. Find your own reliable Rav, a Rav that you trust, or professional, or somebody who knows the halachically, the regulations, the law, and somebody who you trust. This comes back to trusting your instinct, your gut. When you meet somebody, when you meet people, you get a gut feel about that person. So go with somebody that you know is knowledgeable in that area, that is going to be non-judgmental, unbiased. And when you hear something from somebody, even if they might be a professional or a reputable person, check it out with this person that you trust. Go through it, because you're going to get so many different opinions and you're going to get so many people telling you different things. If you're going to start believing everything that you hear, you're going to get so confused and you're just going to go round and round in circles. You never have to believe everything that you hear. You can hear it, and then it's for you to decide what you do with that information. But do find somebody that you trust and that you can bounce it back on.
I'm wondering if sometimes people actually hear it differently. They hear it through their own ears, or they hear it through their own, and it's not even what the person said. If you're hearing it through emotions, that's maybe not their original intent. Maybe their words could be interpreted in different ways, and you interpreted it through the way you interpreted, which they would say is a misinterpretation of what they said. So there's also that idea of running through what you think you heard by somebody else, or even back to them. So what you said is this. Did I get that right? Just making sure that you actually understood that.
Yes, 100%.
Especially when you feel so off.
Yeah, definitely. Clarify it.
Or even when it feels so wonderful to you, and make sure that you were not understanding it through the way you want to hear it, and it's not even the reality.
Yeah, because we process information based on our own experiences. So two people can hear the exact same things and they'll interpret it differently. We all do that. But some people do it, there's different levels of how we do that. So for sure, check it out. Can I say, am I correct that, did you mean this and this and this? Is this what you're saying?
Right. And then if you hear something that doesn't resonate, then you are clear that what they said doesn't resonate. You can still do something about it. You still don't have to necessarily listen and take that in, either with whoever it is they're talking to.
Yeah. So you do have to check yourself and be honest with yourself. Why is it not resonating with me? Is it just because I don't like it? Or is it like it just doesn't sit right? It's not the truth. And if it's the second one, then for sure, you don't have to accept that. Go for the truth. However, if it's something that do I not like it because of my own emotions, my own feelings, then work on that.
But nonetheless, I think that if something doesn't resonate, talk it out with somebody. Don't try to figure it out only on your own.
Exactly.
Even just hearing your voice saying it to somebody, or having to explain it in words rather than just our thoughts are not necessarily exact words, but hearing ourselves say it, we can clarify it. So whether you want to talk into your own phone, but I think it's better to talk to somebody else, especially somebody who can challenge you, not just always champion you, but like someone.
Exactly.
I think that's important, is that maybe you don't want to hear it that way, or maybe you didn't hear it correctly, but someone who's really going to help you think it through and not just be always on your side.
Definitely. You need an objective opinion. And like you say, it's all very nice. Everyone wants validation, but at the end of the day, you want really to do what is best for yourself and for your children. And you need somebody who can be objective, but at the same time is there for you, who can do this with you. And if you need, whether it's professional or a very good friend or family member, every person needs to have that person there while they're going through a divorce, because it's impossible to do it on your own. You need that support.
There's so many things that you don't have any life experience with. So of course you would need support.
100%. No, and it's such a massive process that, you definitely need to have somebody. And if you start off with somebody and along the way you see that person is not the right person for you, change. You don't have to stay with them.
The other thing that I think about is when you're talking to someone, tell them what you hope to get out of the conversation. We talk about this a lot in marriage. I just want to vent. I don't want solutions. I just want to vent. Or now I actually need a solution. Can you help me? Or right now I just need some time and I just want, like whatever it is, ask for what you really want to get out of the conversation so people know how to orient themselves and how to be supportive.
Yeah, definitely. Although not always people know that. You know, but again, the more self-aware you are, the more you use meditation or relaxation, whatever it is, to get yourself grounded, the more self-aware you are. And then the easier it is to navigate it. Because like you say, when you're in this situation, when you have that self-awareness, you'll be able to come and say, you know what, I just want to offload, or I want to know what is the right thing. I want to hear your opinion. What do you think of what is the best way forward? Things like that.
So I think underlying all of this is self-awareness and knowing how to pause.
Knowing how to pause, self-care as well.
Self-care, okay. Actually, let's start
Self-care
first.
is massive.
Self-care first. I mean, in no particular order, but self-care is really important.
Yeah, they all come together, yeah.
In no particular order, but self-care seems like it's the underlying of everything, because when you realize that you're worth it, I think self-care is not only the self-care that you're doing, but realize that I'm worth the time and the self-care. And then everything else can build from there. Self-awareness, I'm worth becoming aware of what I'm doing, of who I am and what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that self-care is so important. It doesn't have to be fancy and expensive.
No, it doesn't have to cost money at all.
It has to cost some time.
But it has to be something where you can offload what is on your mind, declutter your mind. And if you need to go for a professional for that, then go do that. I went to another hypnotherapist for that. Because even if you're professional and you're used to helping other people through the process, when it comes to it, you still need that help from somebody else. As much as you can do it yourself. And I used all these techniques on myself, and if I wouldn't have had it, I don't think I would have been able to get through it. Definitely not the way I did. But there was still some times where it was that challenging that I still needed to have it on a deeper level, coming from somebody else as a facilitator, to just clear the stress that was there. Another very good way is a massage. Having a massage also de-stresses, clears all the toxins, all the chemicals from your body. So that's another way that you can just use it for self-care. And I just want to also add, remember, every person's situation is different. So for some people, each person is going to experience different emotions, because some people going through divorce still wanted to stay married. There are people actually who love the person still. I have clients who come and for them, it's very hard because they're kind of still in that marriage, but at the same time, they've got to mourn it. Then there's people where there's going to be a lot of negative emotions towards the other person. So there's going to be so many different emotions. So don't look at other people and say, oh, but they're feeling this way. Why am I feeling different? Go along with your own feelings and how it is for you, and acknowledge how it is for you. It's a process. In a way, it's a little bit like bereavement. I'm not saying it's the same. It's different, but you're going through those different emotions. There's the loss, all those hopes and dreams that are suddenly ended. And at the end of the day, whatever your relationship was like, it's ended. And there's that grieving process. Sometimes there's that relief, that excitement. There's all the positive feelings as well. Acknowledge your feelings and remember that each person is different. Just because someone else is feeling different, nobody can tell you how you should feel. How you're feeling is based on your own experiences.
And how you should feel today. Like, you were good for 3 weeks already, and now why are you feeling like this again? It's not a linear situation. It's like,
for sure, it comes in waves.
Down.
Yeah, it comes in waves. And then also people go through different times of the year or different memories that will come up and it will make them feel differently again. So it's just being aware of all of these things and knowing that it's just part of the process. It's normal. Be kind to yourself and be patient.
Wow. So this is so important, I think, to really know how to navigate. Most of what you said is relevant to all of life, no matter what messy middle process you're going through, whether it's a big move or a change of job or a change of whatever. By the time you get to midlife, you have big stuff, and big stuff will come again. Hopefully less so, but just to expect that it probably will. We have a long life left to go, and knowing how to process all of that through awareness and self-care and pause and mindset, I think is so important. But I think that's super important that we actually framed it specifically in divorce, So going through divorce and keeping your sanity. So thank you so much, Yocheved. Any final thoughts? How can someone reach you?
Like I say, just use all the tips. Be kind on yourself. Remember, it's normal. Everything is normal, and just go along at your own pace. There's no how you should be or how you ought to be. Just be a mensch. Do things for the right reasons. Don't get caught up in the whole nasty bit of it. It's just not worth it. Stay focused on what you want. When I say what you want, I'm not talking about materialistic things. How you want emotionally, mentally, how you want your children to be as well. And you stay focused on that, and Hashem will guide you further. Yeah. They can either go on my website, transwork, trancework.co.uk, or my email is yg@transwork.co.uk. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn as Yocheved Levin, Levin. And I've got my number is there as well. They can either WhatsApp me, they can email me, or on the website I always offer a free chat. And they can always book in a Zoom chat through there. And yeah, happy to help in any way. And I really appreciate your time, Devora. I think what you're doing is amazing. You're helping so many people there's lots of people who are just also watching quietly and struggling. And sometimes they feel it's too hard for them to reach out for help. So just hearing that this help is out there and there's other people like yourself who have been through it, it makes it so much easier. And it's to say that, yes, it is normal, because I think nowadays anything is normal. Like you say, at this stage in life, we've all been through different challenges. I'd love to meet somebody who's never been through a challenge, but no, I've not met them. But challenges, they make you stronger. Like I say, we don't ask for these challenges. Nobody would ever want or choose that particular challenge, but the learning that you get from it is priceless.
I love how you say it's either bitter or better, and better is better.
Yeah, that is one of my first, I think my first YouTube video. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I think my first video was because I was once thinking, I love thinking, and I'm always like analyzing and thinking things through, and you come across people who are so bitter, especially I find sadly through divorce as well. People end up being so bitter, and it's such a shame. It's a wasted life. But you can choose. Why be bitter when you can be so much better? Better is better.
Right. I love. We'll end with that. Better, not bitter. All right. Thank you so much, Yocheved.
Thank you so much, Tori. Yeah, great to see you. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you for joining me in another fascinating conversation about midlife. If you'd like to reach me, Devora Krasnianski, to talk about your midlife or anything else, you can reach me at jewishmidlife@gmail.com. You can also find us on our website, jewishmidlife.com, and follow us on Jewish Midlife on Instagram or Facebook, and join our conversations in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Jewish Women Talk About Midlife. And share what we're doing with your friends and others in the midlife phase.